all, thank you very much, Sharath, for joining us and for guiding us all from your experiences and your learnings. Let me first introduce Sharath. Sharath is basically from NIT, and he is currently an SDE at MediaNet. He has he has interned at Fidelity Investments, and he is a six-star on CodeChef and a master on Code Forces, which is itself a very big achievement. And besides that, adding to the list, he has also got All India rank 20 in Google Hashcode. We'll talk about that in the interview later. So, Sharath, my first question would be, um, how did you started your journey of coding? Was it in college? How did you got to know about CP? And let's talk about your journey initially.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks a lot for having me. So my journey started in a very weird way because first of all, I'm from electrical. I'm not from CSE. So in the first 2 years of my college, basically I didn't do much. I was a pretty much a very average guy. My CGPA was around 7.5, I think, by the end of my second year. So I was a pretty average guy. So one thing I knew at the end of my second year was I don't want to pursue electrical because I wasn't interested in
Mhm.
it. And I was kind of from my 11th and 12th, I knew about computer science. I had learned computer science. I was kind of interested in computer science. So I thought, why not go give a try in that? And that is when our training and placement cell had a meeting with all of our third year interns who are going to be interns. And that time they
Mhm.
asked us to, give a try on CodeChef or a hacker rank and stuff like that. So because that might be helpful for the upcoming interns. And that is how I started competitive programming. And that's how I got into CSE, in fact. Because until second year, I didn't even know if I was going to go for CSE.
Right. So that gave a lot of hope to all the third year students out there who already consider them being very late.
Late, yeah.
So yeah. So that's very interesting. So you said you started in third year. So in third
Mm.
year, usually people have very limited time. You have to do an internship. You have to do a lot of things to get your projects done. So did the pressure not get you? I mean, there are times when starting with CP is always, a tough task at the initial time. You fail a lot. You are not able to solve initially. So how did you cope with that?
Yeah, so first of all, when I started in third year, I wasn't really aware of a lot of stuff. I wasn't aware of a lot of things. I just knew that I was doing code chef. I started with long challenges.
Mhm.
So at that time, I didn't even properly know about what are the stuff like in at that time. I guess there weren't a lot of YouTubers. I think the only YouTuber was Rachit Jain, if I remember
Mhm.
right. And I didn't know about things, so I wasn't really pressured at that time. And once I started with long challenges, I started exploring different algorithms, of course,
Mhm.
about different basic math. One of my seniors told me to look into basic math, prime factors, and all that. And obviously, I started a little bit with greedy. DP was nowhere close. I didn't know anything about it, and same with graphs. So basically, I just started doing long challenges. It felt interesting to me. I used to do those every 10 days. I mean, it used to
Mhm.
happen. It was a 10-day long challenge. I used to do those, and short challenges again. I wasn't really good at those, so this went on for a long time actually. This was a huge mistake by my side, mainly
Mhm.
because I wasn't aware. And I wouldn't recommend anybody to actually do long challenges, especially if you're in third year, because it's not a very efficient way to use your time. It's a 10-day long challenge. You can learn much more in those 10 days. And also it doesn't
Mhm.
teach you time management. So that was one of the mistakes I made. But I got to know about basic stuff. And this was around the time that I used to practice a lot. Really wanted to get an intern, and this was
Mhm.
around the time I got I think mid third year I got Fidelity, an intern in Fidelity, which was at that time a pretty big deal for me because as an electrical I wasn't my average, I think the average package at that time in our college was around 7 or something, and Fidelity was offering almost 14. So it was a big deal for me at that time.
Mhm.
And since I had just started, I got to go for computer science, and that was a pretty big deal. So After that is where the actual journey started. I guess at the end
Hmm.
of December, I one of my friends from computer science, he told me about he told me to do code forces. Basically, I knew about code forces, but I was bad at it, so I never did it actually.
Hmm.
So and he told me that some of his friends were doing really good. They were specialists, experts, and all that. At that time, that was the maximum in our college. So around that time is when I started code forces. That's when I started being aware of different things about competitive programming. Until that,
Hmm.
I was thinking that competitive programming was only for placements. I just did
Hmm.
coaches because I wanted for placements, but it was also interesting, so I just kept going. So yeah, so that's how I got into uh, code courses.
CP. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
CP.
so what exactly do you think is the best site for beginners? Because you shifted from Code Chef to Code Forces, and
Hmm.
what do you think you would have done at first?
So right now, whatever I did is completely not applicable. I wouldn't recommend doing that because it was not efficient at all. So the
Hmm.
first thing I would recommend is for somebody who's starting CP is, of course, first of all, if you don't know programming language, learn that well. I mean, you just need to know the basics, even for loop, even just simple for loop, all those stuff would suffice for you to get started. And then you need to know basic math. Like if you don't know, that could be a problem. But
Hmm.
the basic math that's required is almost 11th and 12th level. So if you were even kind of above average in math, you don't need to really look at it much. But otherwise, you need to know math. Otherwise, you won't progress uh, very fast. Otherwise,
Right.
so, and about the platform, what I would recommend is right now, in my best, in my opinion, Atcoder beginner contests are the best for beginners. Atcoder beginner contest and Code Forces Div 3. But you
Mhm.
should give, you should give most of the Code Forces contests. Those are really helpful, and the initial problems are generally solvable. Even if
Mhm.
you don't if you, even if you're not able to solve, you will definitely understand the editorial if you are even if you're a beginner. So that is something, that is a way that I would recommend you guys to start.
Right. So all the people starting with CP, AdCoder is your site, and okay, Sharat, let's talk about your experience in Google Hash Code. So a lot of people who have joined us today are from first year and second year. So many
Hmm.
people do not know what exactly is Google Hash Code. So if you can share that and also your experience you had in it.
Yeah, so Google Hash Code is basically kind of a contest by Google. I wouldn't call it, I mean, I could call it a competitive programming, but it is not exactly that. It's mostly a approximation kind of contest. Like, um, most of you, if you're first years, obviously you might not be knowing. If you just started competitive programming, you won't be knowing about these kind of problems. So in hash code, we generally get one problem, and that one
Mhm.
problem doesn't have a solution. It doesn't have a perfect solution, because if it had a solution, many people would have solved it. But it's basically you need to get the best possible score. Something like, uh, I don't know if you heard about traveling salesman problem,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's something similar to that. There's no specific solution.
Mhm.
Like let's say there's a question where you can't find the shortest path from here to here. You can't efficiently. There's no algorithm for you to find an
Mhm.
efficient path from one point to another, but you can use some approximations. You can
Mhm.
like intuitively think that maybe if I always take the path with the shortest length, or if I always take the path which directs me towards that my destination, I might reach
Mhm.
faster, right? So that
Mhm.
is kind of an algorithm, but it's not exactly an efficient.
Mhm.
So people go through these approximate algorithms and try to get the highest score. Highest score in the sense the shortest path. So
Mhm.
this is just a very easy example. It's much more complicated. It could be much more complicated than that. So it's kind of a contest like that. So it's a team contest of three people, and
Mhm.
the my experience was actually really great, because one thing is, we had a, I think, last 5 minutes solve which brought us to air 20. That was a really good thing. So
Mm-hmm.
how we prepared was we didn't really prepare. We didn't take too long to prepare. We basically started preparing like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before. We started doing previous hash code problems, and that since it is a team thing, we used to sit and go through the whole contest and try to solve it and look at kind of different kind of solutions in code forces, what how other people approached it, and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And in the end, it everything went well, and we managed to get Air 20. But again, this is not a competitive. This is not actual competitive programming kind of a contest. But if
Right.
you're interested, you can look for you can try it, because I've heard that people do get interview calls from Google, from Hashcode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So very modestly, you just said we did nothing, but still got uh, All India rank 20.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's generally related to your, it can be related to your competitive programming experience, right?
Uh,
So since we were pretty good at that time, almost all three of us were candidate masters at that time, which is pretty big deal. So we were able to do well.
right. So many people get stuck at a particular rating, right? Be it like specialist on code forces or 3 star or 4 stars on code chef, and they sort of feel like that beyond this, it's not my reach. I cannot do better than this, and they usually give up. And they get a fear of competitive programming because of that. So, what would you say to those people who are stuck on some particular ratings?
So if you're stuck in some particular rating, first of all, even I was stuck at Career Master for a very long time. So what I would say is, especially if you're stuck in lower ratings, try to um first of all try to find some friends. And this is something I really want to press big, because since this is a sport where you compete against people, doing it
Mhm.
alone, in my opinion, is not a really good option. If I did it alone, I don't think I would have reached a candidate master or master. I had friends who were we had friendly competitions. Simply, we were in Discord. I had many friends at that time. So in my opinion, see, the first basic thing which almost everybody will tell is, and this you should do, if you are stuck in a rating, you do that rating plus 200, right, in code forces. Like if you are stuck in specialist, you need to try
Mhm.
solving expert level problems. That is one
Mhm.
thing, that is, you have to do that. Otherwise, see, first of all, the thing is, if you don't practice, you can't get better. That's a actual fact. If you simply do contests, you will be stuck at the same point. For to give a context, I have solved almost, I think, over all platforms, I've solved almost 2,000 questions in these 1.5 to 2 years. So
Mhm.
you have to solve problem. That is one thing. And
Right.
of yeah. So other than that, if you simply if you want to be, like, the thing is, you need to be more. You need to have some motivation or some goal to do it. If you simply do
Mhm.
contests without a goal, you can't expect yourself to improve. You need to put some goal. Like at my time, I had a goal to be the best in my college.
Mhm.
When I was a newbie or pupil, there was a guy in expert. So first, initially, some of my friends were specialists. So I would, after every contest, I would see their code. I would discuss with them, and
Mhm.
I would ask them, like, you need to collaborate. That is one thing I believe is really important. If you do it alone, you can do, but it's much easier if you collaborate. If you don't, you can, after a contest, you can discuss with your friends. And if you do that, you can, even if you don't have friends, you can go to Discord. Like, a lot of my friends I
Mhm.
made was from Discord of my rating. So you do that, and of course you do the most general stuff. You got to practice. You got to do up solving is really important after contest.
Right.
After a contest, if you don't get let's say you can't solve, you only solve A, B. If you don't get CD, you need to solve CD. And all these stuff really matter, and only then, a lot of people just don't do that, and they expect to grow, which generally doesn't happen. So yeah, this is what, in my opinion, I would like to say.
Right. So let's talk about your interview experiences now.
Yeah.
How you prepared for the internship and you finally got it. How was the interview experience? Did CP help you a lot? And also adding to that question, if somebody who has not actually done competitive programming but has solved a lot of questions on, say, Geeks for Geeks or Lead Code, how is the difference in interview process in these two situations?
You mean people who don't do competitive programming, programming, and people who do it from lead code or geeks for geeks,
Yeah,
right?
what's the difference, and how was it for you as you were a competitive programming?
So first of all, during my intern time, as I said, I didn't know anything about competitive programming. So I just did some problems, and I was
Mhm.
starting to get good at it. And at that time, I think especially on campus, companies don't really ask really hard questions. So it was pretty easy. Like in the online assessment, they asked a really easy question, and in my interview it was kind of, again, it was kind of easy. It was some first a linked list question, then a
Mhm.
generic kind of question, and then it was all HR kind of questions. So about my intern, I think there's not much of an intern interview experience to talk about, but when it comes to my media.net, I do have some things that I can recommend.
Right. So, so you did CP for a good amount of time. Besides that, there's this question is always in trend, and people
Yeah.
fight over this. Should you go for CP or should you go for development or other technologies when you're done with DSA? So, what's your thought on that?
Okay, so the DSA versus CV versus development, right? So, in my opinion, first thing is, if you're actually the first thing, if you're actually interested in any one of them,
Mhm.
I would prefer you to go for that. This is the first thing. Like if you really like development and you don't find interest in CP at all, there's no point in doing CP. If you can really go into development, you do GSOC and stuff, then that is of course a huge thing. And if you like CP, of course, if you don't like to do development, you can do that. But otherwise, in my opinion, if you don't have a specific way to go, then in my opinion, especially for fan companies in India, if you want to go crack fan companies, CP is probably the easiest way, because
Mhm.
see like in my case, but development is needed. It's better to know some amount of development and do projects and stuff like that. But in my case, I did not know a lot of development. I didn't have time to do a development. I started in third year, or it was almost
Mhm.
mid third year when I properly started CP. So you can kind of get, like, I had a choice between development and CP. The only development I did was during my internship, and I went for a hackathon. I think JPMC Code for Good hackathon. So that
Mhm.
was probably the only development I did. And other than that, my main goal was ICPC. We
Mhm.
Three of us formed a team, and we were mainly going for that. And I can probably later on talk about my experience of not knowing much about development and starting a job as an SD.
Right. We'll
We
talk
can
about
talk
that
about that. Yeah.
definitely.
Hmm.
So if someone is not doing development, is
Hmm.
it necessary he'll be losing on a lot of opportunities? Besides FANG companies, if you talk about the startups which are there like Swiggy, Zomato,
Hmm.
Innovator, all these things really require you to have development.
Yes,
So
true.
will CP help in that, or one should go for development if he's looking for startups?
See, a lot of startups also ask, yes, they do ask development, but if you want to go for startups, that is obviously a good choice, especially if they're high paying.
Mhm.
So, of course, knowing development, see, if you've got time, if you're in second year or even first year or even second year, you need to do.
Mhm.
So it's not like you just go for one path. If you don't have time, of course, you have to choose, because if you have very little of both, that's not going to help. So if you have time, go for both. If you don't have time, uh, in my opinion, again, uh, if you don't have time, just know the basics of development. And since most fan companies don't ask anything about development, they generally just focus on what DSA and CS fundamentals, right? So
Mhm.
in my opinion, you should go for CP or even lead code. Lead code I would recommend only for people who are in fourth year right now and they don't have much time. They didn't do anything. So in that case, lead code for specific companies is a much better choice because CP can take at least 1 year to develop into a good position.
Right.
So yeah, that's my opinion on this.
Okay. So also adding to that, projects, right? So what do you consider a good project? People usually say the complexity, the uniqueness, sort of technologies which you've used. What
Mm.
you personally consider a good project?
In my opinion, a good project would be something that actually had some probably it actually had a reason for you to do it instead of just putting it inside the resume, right?
Hmm.
So some example are some of my friend made like Discord bots and all that, and which are used by a lot of people. And I know one guy who made kind of online code editor where people can collaborate, even share video and stuff. Like that is really
Hmm.
creative, right? So but you don't need to go that far actually. Like almost if you want to have a good project, you can actually take it from a YouTube video. In fact, you can like take a project if you don't want to go too deep. This is if you, of course, if you're creative, you can do your own project, and that's gonna obviously bring in users. If it brings in users, you can even mention that in your resume, right? So otherwise, if you just want a project, it's completely okay to take it from any course that you did or in fact a YouTube video. But the thing is, you need to be extremely thorough
Hmm.
about that project because during my interviews, I was asked a lot about the project, like a lot deep into it. So it's not a good idea to steal a project from anywhere. Of course, you need to do the project on your own. You will learn about a lot
Hmm.
of things, and it's okay to get ideas from other this thing. But if you really want to stand out, you can make something that is actually useful to you or useful to somebody else, and somebody else might use it too.
Right.
Yeah.
So all the people, if you've got time, research and do a project on your own. But if you're limited on time, get a project done, but read the project, exactly what is happening in the project you should know. Basically, this is what Sharad meant.
Yeah, because in my
Besides,
interview, yeah, in my
Mhm.
interview, I think we had in one of my first interviews, I think we had almost 20 minutes talk on one of my projects. So he was asking really deep into it. So you need to know really good about the projects. If you don't know even some of
Mhm.
the things, because if you don't do it on your own, and he might ask, if he asks some questions about it, you might really get stuck, and that's not really a good impression.
Right. So let's talk about your internship. You said you had no development background before joining internship. So how was it in the internship that you learned and then you worked? How was that process of the duration of your internship?
So in my internship was at Fidelity, and it was they had a really good program. I think I forgot the name of the program, but they had a really specific program for interns where even if you don't know anything, you can just almost blend in because at that time, I think before the intern, I just went through basic stuff of development, and I knew one guy already who had done an intern in Fidelity, and from what I asked him, he said that it's completely fine, and you can actually, because you can't predict what team you're going to be in, and they can have almost any kind of technology. So there are so many technologies, like you may be asked to work in front end Angular, React, or back end Node.js, or sometimes even service side Java. Anything you can be asked to work on, and you can't
Mhm.
and they can't expect an intern to know everything, right? So it's completely fine to not know much about it. If you know things about it, it's fine. But I didn't, the whatever, at least what I worked on, I didn't know anything about it prior to it. But still, I did it. I managed to do it. I also got a PPO, and after the 2 month time period. So there's nothing, no need to pressure about such stuff. They know that you are an intern, you don't know much. But yeah, things like that, you just need to do your best during the intern. You need to honestly do your best, and they should feel like you are genuinely want to do your best, and they'll like reward you specifically based on that.
No, that's great. You got a PPU there also. Let's now talk about your interview experience in media.net. It's a lot of people wish to go in such companies. How was the process? Was it on campus or off campus? And just let us through what sort of questions were asked.
Yeah, so media.net. So first of all, I had two interview experiences at media.net.
Okay.
Believe it or not, first was on campus, and then was off. Then it was off campus. So what happened was, this was during my fourth year. After I got PPO, I was honestly not even. Again, I didn't know much about. Like, I was honestly happy with my PPO. It was a 14 LPA job, and most of my friends got lower. So, and I was happy. But again, people are getting higher, and I was getting good at CP. I was starting to get to know about how CP people get really good jobs, people who do CP, and how companies generally ask this hard kind of DSA question. Uh,
Mhm.
so again, I wasn't allowed to sit in any companies. Like, we had a policy that if you get placed, you can't sit for any other company. So I wasn't eligible for placements at that time.
Mhm.
But media.net came, I think, at the end of I think November or something, to our campus, and they had a what we used to call a dream offer kind of thing, in the sense that
Mhm.
even if you get placed, you can sit for the placements. You can sit for them. And again, media.net, they have an online assessment. Generally they ask kind of hard question in online assessments. So
Mhm.
it's almost really hard CP level. Even I mean, most of the FANG also don't ask these kind of questions. So online assessment, I was the only guy who was selected for the interview at that time.
Mhm.
So because I think I had become candidate master at that time, almost, and only two others had got become candidate master, and one of them was mechanical, and he wasn't eligible to even sit for the interview, unfortunately. So it went on, and in media.net we have two rounds of DSA and
Mhm.
one round of we have a senior manager who, it's completely unpredictable. He might ask anything. He might ask open
Mhm.
DSA questions, CS fundamentals, anything he wants he can ask about projects. So the DSA rounds went really well, and at that time I wasn't prepared much with CS fundamentals, because the last I had learned about CS fundamentals was, I think, intern time. And
Mhm.
when I did my interview, when I did my online assessment, in just 2 days we had three interviews. So I didn't get time to prepare or do anything. So first two rounds I did really well. By the end of the third round, I somehow screwed up, and guess what, I didn't get selected. So you might be wondering.
Okay.
Yeah, you might be wondering how I got into
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
So this was the first time I was rejected. So how it went was, the HR called me, and she was
Mhm.
expecting me to get selected because I did really well in the first two rounds. And she told
Right.
me that after 5 to 6 months, contact me. We'll give you another interview.
Oh, that's that's insane.
Yeah, so that's how it went. Then
Uh-huh.
after 5 to 6 months, I was obviously, this time I was prepared with most
Mhm.
CS fundamentals and stuff like that. And again, it was first rounds DSA, really kind of hard questions, but if you do CP, you'll be able to solve it. And final
Mhm.
round was, he didn't ask a lot of CS fundamentals. He asked basics, which was okay, and he asked a lot of open-ended kind of DSA questions, I think. And yeah, again, he asked about my projects a lot. So it went really well, and I got selected at that time.
Oh, that's great, and that's a hell of an experience, though.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Unexpected.
this was you in college, right? You were doing basically you were doing stuff on your own, or a group of
Mm,
two other people. How
mm.
was it different from your college days to your full-time employment, where you're working with a team, working on different things which you didn't know in college? How's the experience going?
Yeah, so again, when I finished my fourth year, uh, I knew a little bit of development, I guess. because I had gone for hackathons, did my internships. But again, when I started my job, the job that I did was completely unrelated to what I knew. So what I'm currently working on is Node.js, TypeScript, backend stuff, and working with a lot with GCP and stuff. So uh, when I first went to Media.net, they have a really good 1 month training program where they teach a lot of different stuff from basics. So that was, I wouldn't say that was, again, that was kind of nice. They taught a lot of basics, but again, it wasn't helpful on what I was gonna work on. So the team that I got, again, this is pretty important. Like almost everything is dependent on your team. Generally, people
Mm-hmm.
like to generalize things with companies, right? So at least in Media.net, different teams do completely different work. And my team was almost a kind of a new team. So it had established almost 1 year ago. So it was kind of a startup culture. We had a startup culture. So
Mm-hmm.
this was our team, okay? So it was so the first job, the first few tasks I had was obviously he directly asked. I was directly asked to work in the backend Node.js stuff. I knew a little bit of Node.js. I hadn't done any project based on it or stuff like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
but still, it wasn't too hard. They we had a, they, we generally assigned a mentor. So, uh, like since I knew JavaScript, Node.js, I was asked about initially it was the basic thing was I was asked about a page. I was asked to paging an API. So that was
Mm-hmm.
again I just knew how to do it and I did it. And slowly I was as I was more and more getting integrated to the environment, it was kind of it was much easier than I expected because we have Google, we have YouTube. If I have any doubts, I can just go there. The initial few
Mm-hmm.
days, I used to sit in the night, learn about different stuff from YouTube and stuff like that. But again, it was completely not what I expected because I thought it would be kind of hard. First, when I knew about I would be working in a technology I didn't know of, so I thought it'd be kind of scary. I was kind of nervous, but as time went on, it was pretty good. And coming to that, I can also talk about the benefits of working in a startup kind of culture. So this is what my mentor also told me. He was just we had a talk a few months ago about the
Mm-hmm.
benefits of working on initially working on having a startup culture, startup kind of a work, and then going to bigger fan companies. So basically,
Mm-hmm.
what he told was uh, so currently I have access to almost all kinds of uh, like Google cloud services. Like I directly deploy in Cloud Run, I have directly deploy in Cloud Functions, I manage a lot of pipelines in Cloud Data Fusion, and a lot of stuff like that. I do it on my own. I sometimes directly push stuff to production. Production is basically the running thing, right?
Yeah.
What is given to the client side. So those things are generally not available. He was telling me that those things generally freshers are not given permissions to almost any of these stuff in big tech
Mm-hmm.
companies. So that is one thing that I came to realize because first of all I didn't have anything to compare to. This is what he told me, and that is something really good. If you even if you get a good startup, just remember that you'll be learning much more than um, people who get in big tech companies because
Mm-hmm.
and you can always shift, it's not a problem. So having a startup work culture is actually much more, you'll get to learn much more than a big company.
Right.
uh,
Um, so, what advice you would give? Let's talk about people who are in their first or second year, right? They have ample amount of time. So, what advice would you give to them? Also, the people who are in pre-final year or final year, they have limited amount of time. You said about CP, but some people cannot do it because of the time they have to make projects. So, is lead code or just DSA enough for people to get through the companies, um, big tech companies and startups also?
mm.
So if you could,
So
yeah.
yeah, so coming to first year second years, I would say that you need to do interns. Like I know one guy who it's not really if you really search for interns, you will get interns. Even if it's startup company, it's fine. But the most experience you get in any kind of development, more than you do doing projects, is by doing interns. Even if you're in second, even if in your first year break, you can actually do an intern. It's completely fine. It might be hard to get. Even if you don't get, it's fine. You're not, you're not gonna be left behind. But if you should really try to get an internship, and that really works, because I know a guy who did intern in second year, and now he has intern in third year. He be interning in Google now. So
Mm-hmm.
also, if you because internships is something that's valued by almost every company. It doesn't matter if you're a startup, it doesn't matter if you're a fang, but so I would recommend you to do an internship. That's one thing. And when it comes to projects, try to make projects. You can try to, at least if you're in first year, I think the first focus should be to do DSA and CP. You have got a lot of time, and you should explore CP. I think that is almost, many people tell us not to do CP, but like, you shouldn't just judge by you shouldn't just judge it like that. You should try it. And
Mm-hmm.
because CP is definitely helpful in fan companies. Like, if you know CP, if you're even expert level, you can almost crack almost any fan company, if you know enough CS fundamentals, and if you know enough, if you're expert level, you can almost like any fan company. So if you're first year, definitely start with CP, and you have to start CP, and keep trying to at least get to a good level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do internships. That's very important. Once you're in first year or second year and you do an internship, your everything is gonna it's gonna be really easy to get an intern in third year, and it's gonna be really easy to get an intern in fourth year. And I'll also tell you how to actually properly get interns. But before coming to that, I'll talk about third years and fourth years, right?
Right.
So for first years and second years, I believe you don't need to wait for third year to do your intern. Do it as soon as possible. It'll be much helpful. For third years, again, you have to get an intern. Uh, so again, if you're in third year or fourth year, I would recommend you to, definitely, if you don't have projects, you have to have projects, because most resumes don't get shortlisted if you don't have good projects. So try to do some project. It could be on your own. It could be from a YouTube video or any course that you did. It could be anything. Do it on your own. Keep it in your resume. And if you're in third year, you can still try CP, because we don't know if you're actually interested in CP. There's one thing, that if you're
Mm-hmm.
interested in something, you will improve much faster in that. So if you're really not interested in CP, again, you will just try to do it for the sake of placements. You might not increase. You will again get stressed. There's a lot of things like that, right? If you just try your luck in CP. If you're interested, definitely go for it. Even if you're in third year, even if you're in fourth year, also you can try your luck in CP. But I would recommend you to do lead code, because um, of course, if you need learn your basic data structures and algorithms, there are a lot of resources on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. And do lead code, for whatever company. I would say that lead code premium, I wouldn't say it's, like, one of my friends, I mean, I personally don't know, but one of my friends took it,
Mm-hmm.
and he's currently working in Amazon. So he was telling it's useful. But again, this depends on you. You can maybe watch some tutorials, because lead code premium, what it has is, you can get all the problems for one company. So
Right.
yeah, so that is kind of useful, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
you don't specifically need that. If you just keep doing problems on lead code, even if you're, let's say, you want to target you want to target some specific set of companies, do problems for that.
Mm-hmm.
Be thorough with basic things. Like, main thing is greedy, DP, graphs. These are important things. Binary search, and these basic algorithms you need to be good at. And yeah, that is what I would recommend. And also, one thing that I guess a lot of people don't know is, when you're trying to get apply for companies, you should, this is one mistake even I made. I'd never You
Mm-hmm.
need to take referrals. Like, if you don't take referrals, if you simply apply for companies, the chances of getting into those companies is like purely based on luck, because most of the time recruiters don't even see, basically, especially in fan companies, there's so many people applying, people don't see it. We don't know what kind of
Mm-hmm.
system they have to filter resumes. They might use some keywords. Nobody knows about that, right? So if you get a referral, people will definitely uh, I mean, the recruiter will definitely see your resume. And another mistake that I see, which I found out after joining my company, is don't ask referral to just one guy or two guy and expect them to reply,
Hmm.
because after I put media.net in my LinkedIn profile, so many people ask me for referral. It's like it kind of gets overwhelming, and I at some point it's hard to reply to. I still have 100 messages from yesterday of somebody asking me referrals. So what? Don't take it personally, and this is something that again uh, I found out from some people from on Discord, like, and he's also doing really well. Is that you should, if you want to join a company, just go to LinkedIn, type that
Hmm.
company's name, and you'll get a list of people who are in the company. Send messages to all of them. It might sound, like you're just, I don't know, shameless or something, but you have to do it because people don't reply. People can't reply to everybody, right? So,
Right.
and you need, if you want to get into some company, you have to get a, it's like, it's almost you have to get a referral unless you have
Hmm.
really good projects or anything. And
Hmm.
generally, it's considered that to get an interview at a company is much harder than clearing a company. Even
Right.
at least in my case, I didn't apply for referrals. I didn't know about these stuff at that time. I even if I asked for referrals, I asked for like one guy and he didn't reply, and I was like waiting for the reply. And I would apply for companies and I don't get replies. Even so, this happens a lot, and this is what one of the major mistakes that people don't realize. You need to ask
Hmm.
everybody. You should just keep asking for everybody. It doesn't
Keep
matter
asking.
how you best. Yeah. If one of them replies, you get the referral and you
Hmm.
get the interview. And once you get the interview, trust me, it's much easier than actually getting and passing the interview is not as hard.
So basically, just increase your probability of getting the test link, no matter how many
Yeah.
people you message, right?
Yeah, you have to do that.
You talked about lead code premium,
Mm.
so I wanna follow up that thing. There
Mm.
are a lot of, especially from the last 2 3 years, there are a lot of courses, there are a lot of, online tests which guarantee you that we'll give this amount of, CTC sort of company. So are they really a good choice when you have limited amount of time, or going with documentation and keeping things on your own pace would be a better choice?
I mean, courses can be good. Like courses sometimes can be good if you want a structured way to study. Again, this is depends on the money. It's not completely needed. If you have a lot of money, you can obviously explore this. If let's say if
Hmm.
parents have a lot of money, you can explore these kind of stuff. It's never harmful, but otherwise, it's not. Of course, it's not necessary. And you talked about, uh, I think, courses that said that they will guarantee you uh, placements.
Yeah, there are certain courses
Hmm.
which guarantee you placement. So are I don't know if you know, but
I mean,
are they?
you pay after
Yeah, yeah. There are sort of lot of
right?
things like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. I've heard of these. Basically, I heard of one of them where you after if you get a placement above 12 lakh CTC, you pay them some percent of your initial few months of salary to them. So if you are really in a kind of a state where you are kind of stuck, you don't know you are not able to learn DSA, you're not able to, you don't know if you'll even get a good job. In
Hmm.
that cases, if they're promising you something like that, it could be a good option. But this is only if you're in fourth year. If you're in third year, it's not. Uh, don't take it. Just do it on your own. If you're in fourth year and you have completely no idea, you're like,
Hmm.
will I even get a job? I'm not sure if I'll get a job. And if you're in that kind of condition, of course, this is a good idea, right? You will get a you if they're guaranteeing you a job, it's a good thing. But still, and of course, you have to pay only after you get a job. So that is kind of
Hmm.
a, it could sound like a good idea, but unless you're in fourth year and completely like you don't know if you'll even get a job, only in that case I would recommend something like this.
Right. And okay, that was all the follow-up questions I had. By the way, people, you can always ask your questions in the Q&A section. We'll take all the questions at the last.
Mm.
Last thing, what are your future plans? So what are you gonna do in the next 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, so currently, I'm planning to like this is I got a really good team as of now. I'm able to learn a lot
Hmm.
of stuff. So I want to work here for some more time. Maybe at least minimum of 1 year I'll work here before thinking of anything else. And I am planning to do an MS for now in US.
Hmm.
So I will be preparing. I will be preparing for GRE and stuff like that. So currently, that's my plan. So I haven't thought about anything else as of now. I'll try to learn as much as possible, go for MS. Yeah, and I would it's a good thing because US companies compared to India, they pay much higher. And if
Hmm.
it's like you know even their average company, if you look at their
Hmm.
average company, it's way higher than what we Indians are paid in average. So
Hmm.
it's almost equivalent if you work there. If you work there for 10 years, it's almost like you get enough savings as if you work there for more than 20 years even. So there are a lot of things. I
Hmm.
don't want to go deep into that. You can research about it on your own. Since you're the students, it doesn't matter for now. But yeah, so that's my plan for now. If you want, you can research about it and make your own plans.
Right, that sounds interesting. Okay, so we'll take the questions now. Guys, you can ask your questions on the Q&A section. So the first question is there a Discord group for competitive programming that you're in? So
Yeah.
let me take the first part of that. We do have the GDSE DIT do have a competitive programming group. You can always join it in the Discord and WhatsApp also. Sharath, are
Mm.
you in some group?
Yeah, I'm in many groups. I have been active there for a long time, and that's where I get the kind of that's where I got a lot of friends. At least in during CP friends back in my college, of course, I had most of my friends were from electrical, so almost all of my basically I could call them friends and rivals and competitions I got from there. So I can send some of them, but where do I send it? In the chat or
You can send them on chat.
okay. I'm currently on my work laptop because of the mic, and my Discord is on my other laptop.
Okay, maybe we can
So
take it from you afterwards, and we can.
yeah, you can share it if you want.
That'll be a better
Mm.
option.
Mm.
Right. So next question is CP mandatory for companies like Media.net, G Shaw, Goldman Sachs?
For media.net, it's kind of I would say it's kind of you need to know. I think yeah, it's kind of compulsory for media.net. Like you need to know
Mhm.
some amount of CP because their questions are kind of hard. And if you know CP, you can do really well easily. For GS, it's not at all needed. I think their interview process is completely aptitude based. They'll ask you about logical questions in
Mhm.
their OA, and even in their interviews, it's completely like aptitude based. They don't ask CP level of questions. You just need to know basic DSA. And for DE Shaw, I think as far as I know, they concentrate on I think most of CS concepts. So one thing is you need to be thorough with your CS fundamentals, CS concepts, and
Mhm.
DSA. These are the main things, of course, in an interview, right? So if when it comes to CP mandatory companies, I would say even FANG is not completely compulsory, but there are many companies, many high-paying companies, like much high paying than FANG. Like there are
Mhm.
companies like Sprinkler, Graviton. They pay like
Right.
55 lakh base rate. Those companies CP is completely mandatory. Like they ask extremely hard questions, DSA questions. So other than that, it's if you're looking for FANG, CP is not mandatory, but it definitely helps. And I would
Right.
recommend if you are in first or second year, if you're aiming for FANG, the CP is definitely you have to try it.
Basically, if you've got time and you have interest, definitely try it out. It will only help you, no matter whether you're going for Fangs or any other company. Uh, right. Nihar has asked skills required to contribute for open source and how to approach them.
Again, I didn't go for open source, so I can't answer this really.
Okay.
But if you want, you can go. I have heard a lot of opportunities. People who go for open source, and you can get remote jobs outside of India. That's completely
Hmm.
possible, and that is fun. Again, another path you can take. And again, the pay is also really high. But I don't know much about it. So you can just research about it on your own.
Okay, there's one question. Can you please suggest some companies we should try for internships for the students who are at beginner level of DSA?
If the thing is, you shouldn't go for specific companies. You should go for in everything. Like, it's again, I
Hmm.
said probability, right? So if you're going for internships, try to approach every company. It's not like if you know beginner level, then Fang is okay, out of my reach, I can't try it. So, like, there's no harm in interviewing, right? Internship. So just
Hmm.
interview for them, interview uh, for whatever openings you have in LinkedIn. Try to get more connections in LinkedIn and apply for any company that you see. So even if there's a company you didn't hear about, you can just interview. You can have a what do you call internship ready, right? So later you can
Hmm.
probably get an internship in better companies. So the thing I see is people are very selective, and they feel that if one interview is rejected, everything is gone. But that is completely not true. Like, there are some guys I know who there's one guy I think I know from Discord. He is completely, like, he has been rejected so many times. I think from second year he's been trying for almost any company. I don't know. He has this obsession to interview. I think that's what his interest is. I don't even know. He keeps interviewing for companies, and he keeps getting rejected. But finally, right now, I think he's gonna start fourth year. He has an internship at Google, and he's currently has an internship at Rubric too. He's from a tier 3 college. So you can see that
Hmm.
if you just keep trying, don't be selective. You get more if you try for companies, you get more experience, right? So if
Right.
you're gonna again go for better companies, you'll have that experience, interview experience. You'll be more confident. So don't be selective. Try for every company you can. And as I said, ask if you target a specific company, send referral request to everybody. That is really
Hmm.
important.
Yes. Another question is, please give the priorities of languages according to you that I should start in the first year of engineering. And there is also like follow-up question to this. Can you do CP in Java or Python? If someone knows Python, does he have to learn C++ first and then do CP?
Okay, so first of all, Python I wouldn't recommend, because even in company online assessment, some companies don't even give an option for Python. So
Hmm.
Python is something that I wouldn't recommend. Python is generally for, I guess, more MLDL stuff. If you're gonna go for that, definitely, of course, by knowing Python is really good. But I think also for 11th and 12th, I think right now CBSE is teaching them Python instead of C++, if I remember
Right,
right.
right.
So yeah, you might definitely want to start in Python since you already know Python. But in my opinion, again, colleges, I think still in first year they teach C, right?
Yeah,
So
the
try to
DC.
learn C++, because if you know C++, the thing is, if you know C++, you can easily transition to other languages too. Java is kind of
Hmm.
similar, and Python is basically a easier version of C++. The same with JavaScript. Almost all languages are basically a easier version of C++ or Java, in my opinion. So definitely try to learn C. If you're in first year, definitely learn C++. That's a must. And Java, if you know Java, that's good, because companies, a lot of companies work in Java, and something, this is, I don't know if this is applicable, but when I was in third year, I think I heard some seniors say that if you know Java, you'll definitely get placed. But it could not mean much. But this is something that a senior said. And yeah, so Java is, a lot of companies use Java still. So if you know Java, that's good. But for CP, definitely what I recommend is C++.
Right. Another question is how to make resume unique so that probability of shortlisting gets increased.
So you for resume, for making a unique resume, you need to have, first of all, choose a nice style which can stand out. Because the thing is, this is again my opinion. I'm not sure about how it's done. Again, as I said, that if you're talking about resume shortlisting, the problem, it's always based on luck. It's always better to get referrals. As I said, don't apply for a company without referrals. You will just increase the cooldown, I guess. Because this happened to me once. I applied for, I think I applied for one of the companies. I think I applied for one of the companies, and I think the next month, uh, one of the people in that company asked me if I want referral. So I was really good at that time. They asked me if I want referral, but I couldn't
Mhm.
even apply because I already had applied once. So don't apply without referral. That's very important. But still, if you wanna increase your make your resume more unique, try to choose a good style, and of course, try to have internships. The internships really, the more development experience you have, that that much it will make your resume look good, and have interesting sounding projects like it,
Mhm.
the things that they look at are internships and your project names. So if your project looks interesting, people will already be people will be drawn to that. And again, a lot of it depends on skills. Again, you need to make skills, and you need to have achievements, you need to have projects, and you need to have internship. That will only make your resume look more unique.
Right. So the next question is it okay to directly go for C++? Um,
Rather
what
than
are,
C, right?
other than C? Huh?
Yeah, it's completely okay. But anyway, I think you guys are taught C in first year, so uh,
Hmm.
but still C plus plus. In 11th and 12th, when I was in 11th, I guess we directly went to C plus plus. It's completely fine.
Right.
So
Uh,
there's no need to go to C.
Next question is, did you focus on your college GPA? That's a interesting
Yeah,
question.
yeah. So I think I already told them starting that my GPA when I was going to third year was 7, close to 7, and that didn't. Of course, you need to keep it above some limit.
Right.
That otherwise you can't even sit for placements, right?
Hmm.
Fortunately, 7 was the lower limit for most companies for internships, so I was kind of lucky there. But I did try to improve my CGPA. In the end, I bought it to I think 7.9. I couldn't cross that 8, but I bought it to 7.9. And but if you look at off campus, I don't think companies care about it. You don't, at least if you're not too low, it's better to keep it above 8. 7, I was unfortunate, but if you have above 8, 8 point something, it's always really good. And of course, if you have really high too, it could help in
Hmm.
future stuff too, because if you ever plan to go for MS, you might not think about it now, but you might think about it in the future.
Hmm.
GPA really helps, so don't just forget about college GPA. Try to focus on good GPA if you can.
Right. So just maintain a basic so you can, a threshold of CGPA so you can sit for placements. Right. Now, the next question is from Avadesh. He is asking how to start with core forces. What are the prerequisites or C++ STL with basic DSA window? Also, people do not usually know when to shift to, if I may say, when to shift to CP. They are at a certain position in their DSA journey. Maybe they are at recursion. They are doing 2D array. Should they be trying CP as well, or they should get done with DSA and then start with CP?
So, in my opinion, you should directly start doing contests if you know basic math and programming, because almost all of the DSA algorithms that I learned was absorbing during contests. So I didn't when I started, as I said, when I started long challenges, I didn't even know what greedy was. I didn't know anything about TP. I didn't know anything about graphs. I just kept doing at that time it was long challenges. I had more time to search online. It was math. It was mostly based on math. But even when I started code forces, it was me looking at other people's solution, and me looking at editorials. They asked me to do greedy. Then I went to YouTube, saw a video on greedy, and I saw a question at binary search. I went to YouTube, did binary search. So even now, my opinion would be to not, because there's no specific DSA that you can cover. There's But if you start, but the thing is, you don't even need most of the DSA for starting, for solving the first two problems in core forces. So
Mm.
it'll eventually make you more immune to time pressure, which is important for giving online assessments, and it'll also make you learn new stuff as you go on. So in my opinion, you should also prerequisite for STL C++. Just watch a YouTube video. That's what I did. I didn't know STL. I watched, there was a, I think at that time there was a video 20 minutes by Rachit say how to uh,
Mm-hmm.
what is C++. Yeah, I just watched that video. And of course, you can't expect to directly use it at that time, right? So I started to still, I was at that time, I didn't even know what a vector was. So I was still using arrays. I saw people using vectors. I saw other people's code with the same problems which I solved. Then I also started using vector. Then went to sets, maps, all those. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, uh, you don't need to, you know, do any basic DSA. Maybe um, yeah, you don't need to do basic DSA. If you know good amount of math, 11th until 10th, 11th, 12th math, not even 11th, 12th, 11th,
Mm.
12th is integration, right? So
Yeah.
until 10th, basic math, prime factors, all those stuff, if you know, and you can just start programming. You can just start CP directly, and don't be
Mm.
demotivated if you don't know stuff. You can just learn it, and always try to have a friend group with whom you can do CP. That'll be much easier. If you want to discuss solutions, you can learn a lot from that.
Right. So next question is from Jay. He asks, I'm second year student of artificial intelligence and data science student. I'm really poor in coding. It creates me frustration in my mind. How should I go ahead? Let me suggest some steps. So yeah, I guess a lot of people would be in his place in first years when you
Hmm.
start coding and programming.
Yeah, so your branch doesn't matter. You don't need to mention that. Any branch you can do it. But if you took artificial intelligence and data science out of interest, obviously you should pursue that. Also have a degree on that. But otherwise, if you're really poor in coding, if I'm guessing you're from first year, again, as I said that you should it's see if you can get good at coding, you can't get good at coding only by watching courses or YouTube. You have to do actual coding, because even in my remembrance, I did a course, I think in third year, of graphs. I did in Coursera course on graphs and stuff like that, but I completely forgot about it right after. It was completely useless in my opinion. But how I actually learned graphs was, as I continued doing code courses, I reached to a level where there were graph questions. I started
Mm.
learning about this, and that's how I started actually. That's, in my opinion, that's how I learn stuff. So, best way to actually learn coding is, uh, again, if you're poor in coding, just try doing CP, try doing contests, and yeah, that's what I would say.
Next is, sir, while giving referrals, what skill set you see in a candidate?
Yeah, so my skill set initially, yeah, I still remember when I first put Media.net in my when I first joined Media.net, one of the guys asked me for referrals. The first guy that asked me for referrals, I didn't even see the skill set. I just gave him referral because I used to ask for referral and people don't reply me, right? But as
Right.
time goes on, as you expect, people get so many requests and they start becoming selective. So one thing you
Mm.
can do is, when you ask people for referral, find somebody who just joined a company. So you'll be one of the first guys to get to them, and they'll be a higher chance to of them giving you a referral. But otherwise, what I generally look is, I look at their, if they have done some good projects, if they have any interns, I read about their internship experience, and I also,
Mhm.
since this is media.net, and also I have a referral bonus, right? If I give somebody referral, so I generally look at least some amount of CP, but other companies might not look at it, because media.net you need CP. That's almost, in my opinion, you need CP. So I generally
Mhm.
look at least some amount of CP experience and other stuff too. But it won't be true for other companies. They'll look at other stuff. But again, as I said, if you want referral, just message everyone. Find people who just joined companies, message them, and don't apply without referrals. Just keep trying for referral. At least one guy will give you a referral, and that will get you an interview. And How you do an interview depends on you.
Right. So the next question is, how did you code alongside with study? And if one want to do MS, should one find first do job or directly go after graduation? Please tell. So yeah, did you also had MS in your mind even before joining Media.net?
Yeah, I had MS. I think at the end of my second year, I was kind of interested at I wanted to do data science at that time. I was interested in artificial intelligence and stuff. I did courses. I did a deep learning specialization and course and all. I was thinking of doing MS directly after college. At that time, I didn't have any other options. So I wanted to get into computer science. But then I started preparing for GRE, but then I started getting into competitive coding, and that completely got scrapped off. But about the question of you want to do it directly after college or once you after getting a job, from what I know, from what I researched, you have a higher chance of getting a good college if you have more experience. So a lot of people do it after college. A lot of people do it again after 1 or 2 years. This is very common. After college, after 1 year, after 2 years, generally the even after 3 years, people do it. We can do it anytime, right? So, in my opinion, if you don't have any good publications and stuff like that, because that's what they look at. You don't have a good GPA or any good publications or anything like that. Get some work experience. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to get a a good college. So get work experience. They value work experience too. So 1 year, 2 year work experience if you have, they'll value that, and you might get a good college. Otherwise, if you are in a lot of CS theory stuff, if you have good projects of your fourth year, if you have had any publications, then you can directly apply for GRE. That's also a good option. Only thing is you need to try to get a good college. Whichever favors that, you need to do that.
So I guess this was the last question, I think.
I think I have some DMs and Q&A. Uh, also, where will you share the Discord groups? Okay, I'll send it to one of you. One of you message me on LinkedIn. I'll send it to you, and you can share the Discord groups. Right?
Yeah, that'll do.
Mm. Also, you can ask me on DM if you are too shy to ask. Okay, one guy asked. Okay, he already. This is already the same thing. Last question. Q&A. First year with manipulation. Should I start to learn recursion? So you again, as I said, that you can directly try your hand, and if you know C++, wait, try to learn C++ basics first. It can be anyhow. You can. I don't really know a good resource because I already knew C++ from 11th and 12th. But there are good resources online, and one channel that I used to learn the basic stuffs was My Code School. I don't know how relevant it's now, but they have a really good playlist on basic stuff like even pointers or all the data structures and algorithms, but not for CP level. That is just the basic understanding stuff. So you can go through that. How many questions hours should I devote every day? One guy's asked. So, in my opinion, uh, there's no specific thing to do for that. At some point, I was just doing a lot of contests and absolving it. That's all I was doing. So that itself helps a lot. But uh, it's just like try to develop an interest. If you have an interest, uh, you can easily you yourself will feel to do contests and more questions. I know up until recursion, but what comes before recursion? There's no specific direction. You can just
Hmm.
learn stuff, right? Is there any other?
Uh, I guess we have answered all the questions. Do you have any DMs? You can go ahead with them. Otherwise, we
No,
can
I
wrap up.
don't have. I think it's the same question that was asked in general in DM.
Okay, so I guess we are good to end it here. So I'd like to thank uh, all the attendees for joining, and especially Sharan for sharing all his experience in guiding us from his journey. So thank you very much, Sharan. It was really
Yeah,
nice to it was really nice to have you here, and
thanks a lot.
all the very best with your job. And
Mm.
thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. It
Okay.
was really good experience. And again, I think someone's asking me for the LinkedIn. I mean, you can share that, right? Uh,
Yeah,
just type Sharat Nice. Just type my name on LinkedIn, I guess.
yeah. I'll, so I've put the link of Sharad's LinkedIn in the chat. I'll pin it, and you guys can see it.
Cool.
We'll
Thanks a
share it
lot.
in the WhatsApp groups also. Yeah, Sharad. Thank you very much, and we'll end the event here. Thank you, attendees, for joining. Okay,
Yeah. Thank you.
thank you.